Main Street Cinema, the scenario, is good opportunity to practice the application of the supplier positioning matrix. Let's look. Main Street Cinema is a single-screen movie theater in a residential area. Okay. Main Street Cinema is licensed exhibitor of Mega Picture Distribution Company, meaning it receives all its movies and pays all its rental fees to this larger corporation as per license agreement. So that's all settled. Otherwise, Main Street Cinema is a small business that spends a considerable amount of money each year purchasing a wide variety of products from suppliers. Last year's spend analysis revealed the following. Let's look at this table. Spend analysis, the collection, categorization, and reporting of expenditures. So we see that this small business, outside of the licensing agreement and the exhibition of motion pictures, that's fixed. They otherwise have grouped their spending into these categories: daily janitorial services, carpet cleaning, soft drinks, and aggregated the numbers together to get some sense of the magnitude of expenditure. Now, what are we supposed to do with this information? Let's take a look. The two contract services listed at the top of this table. Okay, so that would be daily janitorial and upholstery and carpet cleaning, are particularly important to Main Street Cinema, and they require Main Street to entrust its facility to personnel sent by other companies it hires for these services. Okay. Upholstery and carpet cleaning, while only purchased 4 times a year, is particularly worrisome, interesting to Main Street Cinema because the supplier of this service must work overnight to complete the cleaning, and any problems during that work can force Main Street Cinema into closing the following business day and losing all the sales revenue. Okay, interesting. So it's saying that of the list of things that it spends lots of money on, these two in particular it considers quite sensitive in terms of purchasing those services, as opposed to soft drinks or popcorn, where they can run to a store or probably some sort of wholesale vendor and buy. All right, fine. What are we supposed to do with this information? Well, let's look at the question. In the spend analysis, okay, which category of spending best fits the description of strategic critical purchasing in the this particular scenario asks for the supplier positioning model by name. It's asking for which one of those categories on the list falls in this particular sector, strategic critical, of that particular model. We better stop first and look at the model as a whole. What does the supplier positioning model look like? It is a model, a classification scheme for classifying categories of expenditure. Now, what's it actually look like? Looks like a 4-box model. It's generally how it's presented, as a grid with 4 sectors. Now, a grid is defined by its horizontal and its vertical axes. So in the case of the supplier positioning model, what, for instance, is the horizontal axis supposed to represent? We were actually just looking at that in the table. Annual expense. From high, meaning you spend lots on this category, down to low, and everything in between. That's the meaning of the horizontal axis. Now, the vertical axis is a commentary on supply vulnerability. And careful, the scale runs from high at the top to low at the bottom. So in this corner, you have high is the end of this scale and low is the end of this scale, but that's the standard format of the supplier positioning matrix. Oh, all right, so we're to take any category of spending and make a decision concerning its relative magnitude of expense and its relative magnitude of vulnerability from high risk to low risk. You say, wait a minute, what's vulnerability supposed to mean? Vulnerability is any issue on the riskiness of actually getting a hold of whatever this is that we need. If, for instance, it is something that is only offered or can be purchased from very few suppliers, we'd say, well, it's going to be on the higher riskiness side. If it's something that's quite common and you can get anywhere, it would be on the lower side. If there's issues of, for instance, security or access to your particular facility, then that's more on the higher side, right? And if there's no such issues like that, that's more on the lower side. Now, what is it that the question asked? The question asked about the strategic purchasing sector, essentially. Strategic, right, each one of these four sectors then, each combination of high and low, represents a particular purchasing category, if you will. Strategic critical is right here. Oh, okay, so which category of the list of 5 on that table is the most solidly positioned right here in the upper right-hand sector? Okay, what would that be? That would be something that Main Street Cinema spends a lot of money on, because it's to the right this way, and simultaneously considers the supply quite high risk, I mean relative to other commodities that it purchases. Okay, well, first off, we can at least shorten the list in terms of expense that we were given. I see, for instance, that, wow, almost half of their spending is on daily janitorial services. So that's definitely, wherever that would land, it would be somewhere quite far over to the right. Now the question is that enough? Is it also going to be considered high risk? Oh wait, yes, wait a minute. The 2 contract services listed at the top, that's what I was underlying here. Particularly important, particularly worrisome. Janitorial services and upholstery, carpet, and cleaning. That's what this paragraph was about. It was pointing out that basically these are the higher risk categories, and then these here, since 1, they weren't mentioned in that discussion, and 2, a lot of them looks like stuff that you could buy on this, at the supermarket if you had to. Those are going to be the lower risk. So which one is the most solidly on the high risk list? Well, there's only 2. And you spend the most money on, so it would be farthest to the right. Yeah, that would be daily janitorial services. So, found it. Daily janitorial services. That's that category. Now, next question. In the spend analysis, which category of spending best fits the description of strategic security purchasing? That's a different sector of this model. This is strategic critical. That's where you would concentrate the hardest on trying to find a long-term, reliable supply chain partner. Strategic security is here. What kind of category would be considered strategic security? Well, okay, still high risk in terms of supply vulnerability, because we're still on the top part of the matrix. But right, what's the difference here? We're on the lower side for expenditure. So actually we could do this for Main Street Cinema by elimination, in that we only pointed out that there were 2 categories that we considered high risk. One of them, very high expense, the other one, lower expense. There's your natural candidate for strategic security. Upholstery and carpet cleaning. I'll just note it here. Belongs here, upholstery and carpet cleaning. Upholstery and carpet cleaning. Because remember what the story said about upholstery and carpet cleaning? It said that, oh, Main Street Cinema only uses that 4 times a year, meaning they don't spend huge amounts of money on that, you know, versus janitorial services. But they find it particularly worrisome because if that doesn't go right, then they can lose a whole day's revenue. That sensitivity there puts it in this category, strategic security. Okay, now, next question. In the spend analysis, which two categories, interesting, which two categories of spending best fit the description of tactical profit purchasing in the supplier positioning model? Where would tactical profit be? That would be right here. Tactical profit. Tactical profit is in the model, the lower right-hand side. What is this tactical profit category? Well, it's something that you generally spend a fair amount of money on, right? The annual expense is higher, but the risk is low. Okay, something you spend a good amount of money on, but you can get it a lot of different places. You can get it fairly fast. What would fit that description for Main Street Cinema? Well, we were left with this list here, the bottom part of the list, as being the lower risk, right? Stuff that you could run to the supermarket if you had to, soft drinks, popcorn, and candy. Now, of the three things on this list, we know that all three of these are located essentially across the bottom here, lower risk. Which one should go into the tactical profit category? Well, you would just logically then recommend, if it asks for two, you would recommend the two that you spend the most money on because they would be farthest to the right. Oh, so that would be soft drinks. That's one category. That's one category, and then popcorn and candy. That's another category. Essentially the concessions. It looks like, okay, for Main Street Cinema, the purchasing of the materials that they need for concessions are essentially in the tactical profit category. All right. Last question. In the spend analysis, which category of spending best fits the description of tactical acquisition? Tactical acquisition purchasing, well, I think you could guess, right? We've got only one sector left open here. Goes right there. Essentially, if risk is considered lower, it's considered tactical. If risk is considered higher, it's considered strategic. Tactical acquisition is kind of like the no worries category. Tactical acquisition is low risk stuff, right? It's not hard to get a hold of, and you don't spend a lot of money on it anyway, right? It's not a huge part of what you do. Oh, right, and then it's asking, well, which one for Main Street Cinema would go right there? This we could also actually at this point do by elimination because you notice there's only one category that we haven't assigned. That would be toilet paper and liquid soap in the public, for the public restrooms. Do you see how much smaller this number is than any of these other numbers? We're talking about for a year. Okay, they spent a lot less in this category than on anything else. Plus, you know, they could get this a lot of different places. That means that I'm just going to write TP and liquid soap. That particular category is definitely the best candidate for what we call tactical acquisition. Just use petty cash if you have to. The no worries category.